Terry, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay. We'll give everybody a few more minutes here to get logged on before we get going. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I know we're going to have a few more here that are logging on within the next few minutes, but I just wanted to extend a welcome. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be a part of this once again. I'm excited and humbled to be with you virtually today, and always look forward to learning from each of you. Just as a reminder for anyone who is attending for the first time, make sure that you keep your microphone on mute. Again, this is always a safe environment to share your experiences, to ask questions, to learn from one another. So I invite each of you to do that. So welcome to June Management and Leadership Training. We've got quite a bit to cover today. But first, we're going to just a couple reminders. Next week, we've got our kickoff to summer with our annual Summerfest event. Activities going throughout the week. If you want to participate in those or you bring out your families, please do so. Also, last week I sent out a training, a required training for distracted driving training. Just a reminder to complete that training. Now, again, this is only pertains to those that drive a city-owned vehicle or may drive a city-owned vehicle, but it also applies to you, your personal vehicle, if your department director has allowed you to use that vehicle for work-related purposes. Please participate in that training. Again, there should be a link in your time card. If not, just go directly to training.orem.org. Your username and password is going to be your time card username and password. I believe there's a short 12 to 13-minute video and a short test after that. So any questions, please let me know on that. For now, we're going to turn the time. Carrie's got some things she'd like to talk about. And then we'll proceed at that point. So Carrie, the time is yours.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it. And appreciate all of you guys joining us today. I know it's a short week and right after Memorial Day, there's a lot of people off, but we appreciate you guys joining today virtually for this session. So I do have a few things to talk about before I kick it back to Jason. First of all, we, as a reminder, will be reviewing the Atomic Habits book. Bryce Merrill will be the moderator for this for August, September, and October. So if you haven't had an opportunity to pick up that book yet, we do have those copies for you in Human Resources. Just swing by, pick up a copy of that. We want you to be able to have read the book before August, so you still have some time to get it read. Highlight it up, put in some notes so that you're ready to have a good discussion with us on this book starting in August. So again, pick up your book in HR. In July, we won't have a leadership and management session. We will be having a Build a Better Orem session instead, and that will be on July 14th at 9 a.m. It will be a hybrid option. We do prefer that you do come in person if you can at the library hall, but if you absolutely cannot come in person, we will have the virtual option as well. The topic that we will be discussing for this next month's Build a Better Orem will be United as One. And what we'd like to discuss is how we all work together as civil servants here in the community, how we better the community, and how we work together as individuals in different departments. So if you have a good example of something that you guys have done to build the community in a better way, or how you've worked with another department on a big project that has been really successful. If you have any examples of that, please shoot them over to me so that we can share them next month. So please know that this Build a Better Orem is open to all employees. That's for full-time, variable hour, seasonal employees. All employees are welcome to these sessions. So please, if at all possible, allow them to come to these. I'm sure that you guys are all aware that we do now have a new city logo. So you need to update your email signature line to include this new logo. And then in all of your future messaging, when you do use the city logo, you need to use the new Family City USA logo. If you don't know where to get access to that, Pete did put it up on Walter. So that's where you can get the official copy of that to add it to your signature line. Just quickly, we do have a change in one policy. This change came about because of a new state code that, that was passed. So in our bereavement leave policy, it now does include the ability to use bereavement leave for someone who has suffered a pregnancy loss, which is defined as miscarriage or stillbirth. So if you or the other biological parent have suffered a pregnancy loss, such as a miscarriage or a stillbirth, you can use bereavement leave for that time. Anybody have questions on this new policy change? Just so that everybody's aware, I know that Jamie put it in this week's lowdown that he sent out his email on Tuesday. No decision has been made on whether or not we'll move to a hybrid PTO program. I know originally we were going to put it into play on June 26th, but right now the decision hasn't been made whether or not we move forward with that. Jamie has asked if he's asking for feedback from employees to send him emails either in support or against, and the reasons why you're in support or against it, just so that he can kind of get an idea of where employees are standing. So you're welcome to shoot him an email. As soon as we know which direction we're going, we will let you guys know. But right now there's no decision. Any questions on the hybrid PTO? Just for your information, starting June 26th, the new time card system will be live. Many of you are already beta testing that for us, and we appreciate you being the beta testers for that. But June 26th is when it will be live for all employees. You will access the new time card in the portal. So it's portal.orem.org. And you'll also be able to request time off. And you as supervisors will have the ability to approve time off requests there, and it will have a timestamp so that you can keep track of when employees ask which time off, which will be a really nice feature. And then just so that you guys know, after this time card, IT will be working on the next part of the HR system, and that will be onboarding. That will make a lot of you guys happy because we're going to automate the PAs so that you no longer have to do them digitally, print them off and bring them into HR. It should all just be seamless moving forward. So we're really excited about that change. Tom, I know you're on the call. Is there anything else you'd like to add to what we're talking about here?
No, I don't have anything. I think you're spot on.
Okay, thanks, Tom. And I appreciate all the work that Tom's group has done to get this moving forward. One of my favorite features is in this new system, when you submit your time card, you get confetti in the air. So it's kind of fun that you get a little something when you turn in your time card. Thanks, Tom, for all that work. Okay, just shifting gears really quickly. I would like to talk a little bit about mental health, just really briefly. I've seen a big uptick in, well, quite frankly, my concern for our employees' mental health and well-being. I think that COVID had a real significant impact on a lot of us, if not all of us. And I do know that there are many of us that are probably on this call, and many that we work with that are struggling with their mental health right now. So I just wanted to talk just briefly for a few minutes about that. I know that's a topic that don't really bring up in leadership trainings, but I really think it's important that we're aware of the necessity of us being compassionate for people that are struggling. So on this screen right here, you see a self-assessment, and just take a minute and read through these 6 items. And if you are struggling or can say yes to any of these 6 items, you probably would benefit from some help from a mental health professional. And I'm reading through those myself and think I can fall into one of those categories and probably could get a mental health checkup for myself. So just be aware that that's very normal to get help for these things. Here is some statistics. So the Mental Health National Alliance for Mental Health has stated that 1 in 5 Americans suffer from a mental health disorder every year. Job stress is estimated to cost the US $300 billion annually in lost productivity, absenteeism, and health costs. And the American Psychological Association reports roughly half of American workers say they are uncomfortable talking about their mental health in the workplace. That's a big, significant number there. Half of our employees don't feel comfortable about discussing their mental health issues at work. So what can we do to make it a more comforting and welcoming environment for us to be able to have these conversations at work? Closely about the words that you use to describe conditions. So for example, instead of saying someone is mentally ill, someone has a mental illness. So they are not defined by their mental illness. It's just something that they have, that they're dealing with. Another one on the second bullet point, you don't call someone an addict or a drunk. You could say they have an alcohol or a drug problem. Avoid words or phrases such as pity, such as suffering from, being afflicted with, or a victim of mental illness. Instead, you can say they have a history of a mental illness, or they're being treated with, or they live with a mental illness. So for example, I have a son who has been diagnosed with bipolar and ADHD. And we don't say that he's suffering from bipolar or suffering from ADHD. He lives with these mental conditions. So he lives with ADHD and he lives with bipolar. This next bullet point that talks about suicide, this is something that's really big that I would really like to change in our speaking with about suicide. I would prefer that we don't discuss it as committed suicide anymore. These people die by suicide. They don't commit suicide, they die by suicide. This removes the fault and the blame and the stigmatism from the person who's lost their life, and it helps the loved ones be able to cope with it better. Second to last bullet point, refrain from using derogatory words or phrases such as crazy, psycho, nuts, deranged, wacko, disturbed, or low functioning. Those are not appropriate words to use, so be very careful with the words that you use. And then the last bullet point, don't joke around and say, oh, wow, that's just my ADHD. Unless you've been diagnosed with ADHD, that is an actual diagnosis, or saying that, oh, I just have OCD. Do you really have OCD? Or are you just joking around that you like to have things in a particular way? So just be careful about the words that you use. I put this barcode up. If you guys want to take a minute and just scan that, there's a link for more resources on how you can discuss these mental health challenges and how you can discuss better with your employees. So I'll leave this up here for just a quick minute if you guys just want to scan it with your phone, or you can get access to it later when we release the recording. We'll just give you more resources on how you can discuss with your employees and what you can do appropriately. So what can you do as a supervisor? The most important thing that you can do as a supervisor is offer support to your employees. You know them better than anybody else. You know when they're having a struggle in their life and a challenge. Just be there for them and let them know that you care about them more than a contributor to your team, but as an individual. That's really important, that they know that you care about them as a person. So be intentional when you have conversations with employees. Go beyond just saying, hey, how you doing today? Actually mean and dive in and get to know them as a person so that they know that you care about them. If you see one of your employees that's having an off day, let them know that it's okay to have an off day. We all have those off days. It's also important to be vulnerable. I think sometimes we as supervisors think that we've got to act in front of our employees that we've always got it all together and that we don't struggle ourselves. I think it's very good for us to let our employees know when we're struggling too. It humanizes your challenges and they'll respect you more for sharing those challenges with them. And finally, just remember that we do have an EAP that you can refer employees to if they are struggling. Our EAP is now called CuraLink. We do have access to that. If you've forgotten how to contact them, it's up on Walter. We also have little business cards here in HR that you can grab to pass out to employees that have that information. It's 100% virtual visits and it's 100% confidential. So the city does not have access to know who uses this service. It's open to all full-time employees. We don't know who uses it or how often. So you have the ability to use this service without us knowing. And I do like the idea that it's virtual now so that you don't have to go into an office. You can access their service 24/7. So I do hope that that helps employees gain quicker and easier access to this service. Any questions on our EAP and how you can get access to that?
Carrie, one comment there. We do have little EAP cards here in Human Resources. So if you ever stop by and I recommend getting a handful of those to keep at your desk in case you come across a situation where one of your employees, you can just give them the card and pass it along to them. Anyways.
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate that. One thing I'd like to mention before I close out discussing about mental health is that it's okay to acknowledge that you're struggling. I personally, over the last couple of months, have been really struggling about some things in my own life here, both professionally and personally. I think it's really important that you take the time to acknowledge that you're having those struggles and get the help if you need it. So please know that it's completely normal. It's just like going to a doctor and getting a checkup. Sometimes you need to have a mental health checkup as well. Okay, with that, I'm going to shoot it back to Jason, unless you guys have anything you'd like to share on the mental health topic. And he will also, Jason has a question, is CureLink available in any way to variable rate employees? So Jason, the answer to that is yes. I just need to know who they are, and then I just need to let CureLink know that we're sending them. Hey, Jason, back to you.
Okay. Thanks, Carrie. You know, and I personally believe that every one of us in some form or another at some time or another can connect with the importance of our mental health, and including with our employees. It's not something that just it can come and go like the seasons. You can have an employee that does great for years, but then just a sequence of events or combination of events, and then they may, like Carrie said, you know them well, you work with them every day, but it is a very real thing. I personally think that it's just as important as your physical health. You know, we try to be mindful of how we take care of our bodies and what we eat and exercise and all those things. But mental health is very much a real thing. So thank you, Carrie, for your comments on that. Now we have the opportunity and privilege to hear from two additional presenters. First, we're going to turn the time over to Lena Mabry, our lead training dispatcher. She's going to share with us a program known as Wise at Work. And then, well, Lena, I'm just going to go ahead and turn the time over to you, and then we'll, our second presenter today is going to be our emergency manager, Heath Stevenson. But Lena, we'll just go ahead and Carrie, if you can close down. There you go. And Lena, I'll just turn the time over to you.
All right, sounds good. All right, I'm just gonna get my screen shared. Let's see. Theory, this is what I want. See if that works. Can you guys all see that?
Yep.
Perfect. All right, so
You've got a little static going on. I don't know if that's fixable.
let me see. Is that any better?
No.
I don't know then.
Okay. No, it's good.
Sorry, I apologize. So going along with what Carrie said, I do all the training for our dispatch center. And as you can imagine, things get a little stressful here, like Saturday. Things got a little stressful here in dispatch for us. And this past year, I've tried to focus some of our trainings on our mental health. I work with several people who have mental health struggles. I have a whole family full of siblings and parents who struggle from mental health. And so it's a personal thing for me a lot also. And I like Carrie said, it can be uncomfortable to talk about, but I feel like we need to have uncomfortable conversations at this point so that people know there's help. And so as part of that, I've spent the last year with my monthly trainings trying to address mental health in our dispatch center and just trying to let them know, like Carrie's letting us know, it's okay to take care of yourself and to do the things that are best for you. As one of those trainings, last year, if you guys got your city ditties, every city ditty issue had a thing that looked like this on the right of our screen that said, hey, get Wise at Work free and go try it out. And when I put this training together, the city ditty came out that same day and this wasn't on there. And so I had to call Carrie and be like, is this still a thing? Because I'm doing a training on it and I don't know if it still exists because it's not there. And so she assured me it is. And I don't know if you guys remember this or if some of you are using it, but it's a great resource for us to just take 5 minutes. We try and give our employees breaks when we can between taking calls. And if they take a bad call, we try and let them get up and go sit in a massage chair or do what we can to try and just get ourselves to a place where we can come back and take more calls. So I told Carrie I was doing a training on it and she asked me to share it with everybody. So this training, I didn't change it for this presentation. So it's still directed towards my dispatchers. And I kind of did that on purpose, just so you could see kind of the things that my department can use this for. And then obviously you can take it and do what you need for your department. So like I said, I just wanted to start out by pointing out this still is a thing the city offers. It's free. You download it onto your phone. And you can just you can see just even from their demo, it shows like 8 minutes, 10 minutes. They're just quick little things, and there's some that are even shorter, like a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. There some really quick little things that we can do to just try and center ourselves again in our workday while we're here at work. So, so what is Wise at Work? So it's a meditation and mindfulness app. And I am not big into meditation, so I know some of you are probably like, this isn't for me. I'm with you. I am also not big into this, but this app has so many things that I've been trying to use more and more. By no means am I an expert. There's plenty of people who use this way more than me and who love it. But we used to have, for our police department, we used to have an app that we could use that we could go do like more mindful meditation to help you wind down at night and get better sleep and things like that. And so when that went away, I turned to this to check this out, and it's very similar to that program. So if any of you guys are interested, I would encourage you, even if you aren't sure it's for you, it's worth downloading and checking out. It's free. You just have to, and I'll go through how we sign up for it and how it works a little bit more. So just know it's just called Wise at Work. So to get started, you just grab your phone, you just go to your app store, and it doesn't matter if it's an Android or an Apple, you can get it on either. And you just type Wise at Work, and it will, this is what it looks like. So just make sure it's got the little owl. That's kind of their logo. And then just download it onto your phone or whatever device you're using. You can't, I think I tried to see if you could get it on like a computer, and it doesn't work as well. There's not really, I don't think they really have a computer. It's more of an app. So once you download the app, go in and create an account. As long as you're using your orem.org email address, it's free. So when you do sign up, you do have to use your orem.org address. They'll ask you to verify the account and then log in, and then you can log in. So when you log in, it will prompt you to get customized. And so what does that mean? What does get customized mean? So it basically gives you a quiz. It doesn't take long, but it asks you a bunch of questions about your life, and you just answer the questions about what's going on in your life at this moment while you're taking the quiz. And these are several of the topics it'll ask you about. And as you answer them, it will, after you finish answering the series of questions, it will give you suggestions for apps to listen for, sorry, not apps, but for different segments to listen to, different meditation things, they have series. Some of the things in here are a series. So you just listen to one at a time whenever you can. And there's maybe like 7 in a series. So 7 different 10-minute or 15-minute little things that you can do. So when you get customized, it gives you things specific to you. So of course, being a dispatcher, one of the suggestions it gives me is how to get better sleep. Because if you know us, none of us sleep ever. So it's how to get sleep, how to better deal with stress. Those are kind of some of the things that's suggested for me personally, which all I can look at my life and think, yeah, those would help me. So there's several, when you get into the app, there's also several tabs at the bottom that you can see and play with. So the first one is a home tab, and this is where your suggestions will be. So right when you come into the app, it will suggest things for you. Like mine currently for the day is showing like a calming, 5-minute calm, and then a focus. So it's showing me right away a couple of things that could help me for my day. I'm also working on a series about stress, and it also has series about how to use the app the best way. So there's several things that this home screen is going to tell you. But if you don't like to look at it in the home screen, you can go to more focused tabs. So there's the next tab over is a learn tab. So here's where you find your series topics. And like I said, they have everything from like how to even use the app and get started to burnout and achieving work-life balance. So these are some of the things it's telling me right now as I look at my app to do for my life. And if I look at my life, I could use all of those things. So the next tab over is situational. So what's going on in my life right now that will help me? So ironically, there's one that says public speaking warm up. So probably should have done that previous to this, so I was all warmed up. But you can go in and find what situation you're dealing with right now and what just quick little 5-minute thing you can stop and listen to get yourself back to a centered place before you go do something. So the next tab is a mood tab. So based off of what your mood is today, you can go in and listen to a quick, like for me, it's saying, if you're feeling good, listen to this gratitude. If you're feeling emotional, you can listen to a difficult emotions. Learning from our failure is a suggestion if I'm feeling down. So if I'm feeling disconnected, it says start your day feeling connected. So there's just different suggestions based off of how you are feeling at this exact moment too, as you start to get overwhelmed if you just take a time out. And the last one is your profile. And your profile is, I mean, it has a lot of different things. It has schedule. You can turn on reminders. You can look at the schedule to see when you've used the app and when you aren't. You can see what recent recordings you've listened to. So it keeps track of the things you've done also. So I guess for me, I just wanted to make clear to my dispatchers, like, why would this be useful for us, or why do we care? So some of the things I said it can help us with is, you know, sometimes we get overwhelmed in here, or we take a phone call, and after some of the phone calls we take, you need a minute and And sometimes you don't get it, but a lot of times we can make it work that you can just have a minute and go take a walk, or like I said, go sit in our massage chair and just put your headphones on for a minute and just try and process what happened on the phone. So did we come to work tired? I came to work really tired this morning. So did you come to work and you hate it? Like Carrie said, it's okay to have bad days and to not love things all the time. So, or are you just having a bad day? Same thing Carrie was talking about. Are you anxious? Are you having a hard time focusing? So all of these things they have little apps that can help you, or little series and clips that can help you on this app. As far as series, like again, I said, work-life balance, it's still suggesting work-life balance to me at this point. Dealing with grief and loss, we deal with grief and loss a lot here on day-to-day. Responding wisely to a crisis. I mean, we deal with crises also all the time here. So, and again, 7 practices for better sleep. So these are just some of the things I feel for us as dispatchers could really help us and get us to a point where we take better care of ourselves mentally. So, like I said, I'm by no means an expert on this app. I'm still using it and learning about it. I've encouraged my dispatchers to download it and to try it, and I have several of them who use it regularly and love it. So I would just say, let your employees know that this resource is there. It's super simple to use. It's not difficult. Like I said, just go to your app store and you can download it. That's really all I have. Do you guys have any questions about it?
Lena, so for everybody, it's called Wise at Work is
Yeah.
the app that you'll want to download. And if you bring in your phone and show us here in HR that you've downloaded this app, everyone who's listening now, or if you're listening later and listening to the recording, just come in, show us that you've downloaded it, and we will give you a gift certificate to Sweet Road Tacos. So we want to make sure that you guys are testing out this app so that you can show your employees as well. So if you can show us that you've got it on your phone, you can get a gift card from us. So.
Sweet. Yeah, and the app looks just like this when you type Wise at Work into your search in your app. It, like I said, just make sure that owl is there.
Okay, thank you, Lena. And it is very easy. I'm new to Wise at Work, and I was able to download it just in probably less than a minute and create an account just like Lena directed. And again, I'm all about resources when it comes to mental health. So thank you, Lena, for your time and efforts in this, and perfect timing for me. So I plan on diving into this app and checking it out, and I invite all of you to do the same. Next, we have our emergency manager, Mr. Heath Stevenson. Many of you have got to know him over the last couple of years in his efforts in regards to COVID. But there's a lot more to Heath than just handling COVID. So Heath, if you're there.
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, I'm gonna turn time over to you.
Okay, let me share my screen here. All right, can you guys see that okay?
Yep.
All right. So I'm just kind of been asked to go over our Orem City emergency response, kind of what we would do if we were to have a disaster or an emergency strike here again. I've done this presentation a few times, once to emergency managers, a variation of it. I've done it to a few of the different departments, but they've all been in person. And so there's been a kind of a lot of a back and forth Q&A type of stuff, which I know nobody likes to talk virtually, including myself. I totally get it. But if you want to, feel free to jump in at any time with comments, questions, cut me off as you guys have stuff that comes to mind if you need to ask for clarification. And maybe Jason and Carrie, you guys can help me monitor if anybody posts anything in the chat.
We'll let you know.
So what we're gonna go over here is kind of how supervisors can help their departments be more prepared and what they would do during a response. And then in turn, that's gonna help our city and help me out as an emergency manager, since I can't reach everybody all the time. So let's just jump in here. So the first slide I've got is, what is an incident? When we think of an incident, a lot of people just think of, big incidents, things that affect hundreds, thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people. But most of the incidents that we're going to deal with here at Orem City are on a day-to-day basis. Talking about, we have our traffic stops, car crashes, we have water leaks, just stuff that people deal with on an everyday basis, and don't realize that they're actually doing as an emergency manager a response. People are thinking, we have COVID that we've dealt with for almost 3 years now. We've had a fire here in Orem. We've had a flood here in Orem. Are dealing with the drought currently and ongoing. We also had the earthquake. So when people think of incidents, they kind of think of those bigger things. But realize even on those smaller incidents, no matter what it is, whether it's PD or fire or public works or whoever's out and about that's dealing with these, they all have an effective and efficient coordination group that they're using, whether it's one person that's talking to dispatch or whether it's a group of people that have to go out and take care of this issue. And then jumping into this next slide, operational priorities. In the emergency management world and public safety world, it's called LIP. So life safety, incident stabilization, and then property/environment conservation. So those are going to be our priorities, whether it is one of those smaller incidents like a traffic stop, or whether it's all the way up to, a major earthquake or hurricane or whatever it may be happening. Your first step is going to be that life safety, trying to save as many people as possible. And then you're working through stopping the incident and then trying to save as much property as possible. And just so kind of people are aware, this operational priority through an EOC, Emergency Operations Center, there could be multiple incidents that are taking place. We could have something on the south end of town and the north end of town, and only have a certain amount of resources, and whichever one is a life safety issue or down that priority list, that's where our resources are going to go. So that's also, we'll talk about that later, kind of how that's all decided in the EOC, how that information comes out and how those processes work on a supervisor level and on an EOC level. But as we talk about this is honestly, out of all the preparedness that we could do, the most important slide right here. Because I promise that no one's going to want to come to work and no one's going to be effective at work and helping in a disaster response if they don't know that their family is A, safe, and B, has somewhere to go while they're at work that's going to continue to keep them safe during any incident. So if you're going to take anything away from this presentation, I kind of hope it's this slide, honestly, even though it is a family slide and not a work life slide. But think about develop a childcare plan, whether your kids are at work or sorry, whether you're at work and your kids are at school or at a daycare or wherever it may be. Have a plan. Like if we have an incident where the roads are blocked to get home, if we have that earthquake, or if you just have stuff going on that you can't break away and your kids need to be picked up, do you have a backup plan? If you're the person that picks them up, do you have a neighbor or alternatives that they can stay, or some other family member that can help pick them up? And then the next one here is develop a family communications plan. Sure, we all have cell phones, even most kids. My son, he's 8 and he's got an iPad that he's able to talk to us through FaceTime. So people all have those main communications. But if we have a bigger incident where we're asked to open up the EOC, there's a decent chance that maybe those communications don't work. One thing that we get taught a lot in the EM world is to have local contacts and out of state contacts to be able to reach out to. So if we have an incident in here and we have phone lines or whatever's down here, or overwhelmed by the number of people trying to reach out to family, have someone in a different state that you can call and a kid can call or a spouse can call or whoever it may be, a significant other can call and have that conversation. Let them know that they're safe and they're only able to get through there. And then this kind of ties into the next one here, a family reunification plan. Let that contact know where you're going to be so that everybody can kind of have an area to meet up. All right, and so on that reunification plan, have multiple options. So always hope that you can go to your house. If you can stay in your house during any incident, that's the best place to be. You get all of your stuff's there. That's going to be where you're the most prepared. But obviously that's not always the case. You can't always get home. So have a backup place, whether that's meeting at the home or the school or a family member's house or work or wherever it may be. Make sure you have that reunification plan. And as supervisors, as we go through this, make sure maybe this could be a 10-minute talk with the people under you that you supervise and just kind of let them know. Then if we have that incident, they're going to be able to help. And so this last couple here, so develop an adult / elder care plan. It's kind of like the child care plan. Have somewhere if they're at home, or if they're at a site, whatever it may be, or here, it could be the senior center. Have somewhere that these people can go and be safe if they need help until that help can arrive. And I did split up pet and child care plan in this presentation. I know a lot of people probably clump that together because that's something that we see quite often. But same thing, have a pet care plan, have somewhere or someone that can come and take care of your pet, take them to their house, take them to wherever they're evacuating to. Just have those different options. Again, if you're going to take anything away from this plan or this presentation, have it be these plans. Then anything that can come up at work, and if you know your family's safe, it's going to be a lot easier to be able to offer your assistance, stay home or stay at work instead of having to go home to make sure that everything's okay. And obviously, if everything's not okay, there's a good chance that we're gonna go home, make sure our family's okay, and then come back, which could just delay the response that may be needed throughout the city. So the next slide I'm going to jump into here is just a few things as supervisors that we can look at doing within our departments, just to make them more prepared and able to respond to, I'd say, more efficiently and more quickly. But the first one we'll talk about more in depth on the next slide is a continuity of operations plan. As we went through COVID these last few years, especially at the start of COVID, I know a lot of the departments, we sat down and listed, kind of what are our top priorities, things that we need to keep up and running for the city to function as well as we could based on the governor's recommendations. So I'd say those were kind of ad hoc plans, and something that myself, I wouldn't mind sitting down with supervisors or department directors and just going through and creating these plans. I mean, they don't have to be huge and significant. They could be a 5-page plan, but just outlining what positions have to be functioning for the city, who's in those positions, who are the backups, and those kinds of things. And then the second one here, create a department communication plan. So same thing, same lines as long as a family communication plan. If we have an incident, how are you going to get hold of the people in your department? Make sure you have a way to contact people both during work and while at home. I know there's a joke that anytime anything happens, we like to say, I know Bryn says this a lot, that Jamie's always out of town, and it sounds like he's out of town. So who knows, we could have anything happen at any time, but make sure that you're able to communicate during work and after work. You guys said you guys will probably see these lining up quite a bit with the family plans, but develop primary and secondary meeting places if we have to evacuate. If we have an incident here that the city's got to evacuate, make sure you have places that you can go to, you know, whether it's the tree out there or the parking lot or the senior center or wherever you guys pick, have somewhere that you're able to get out of the building and go to if you have to evacuate. I was looking through some files, and the evacuation plans for the public works building, the public safety building, the city center building, and the library were created back in 2018. So it's probably something I could sit down with the different departments, or whether that's just someone from each building, and show them what we created, 4 years ago, and go through and just make sure they're still accurate. Like the library, I know the library is going to have to be updated with the new edition and whatnot, but
Hey, Heath, this is Jason.
yeah, go ahead.
You know, the one thing that I have fresh on my mind, unfortunately, is an active shooter event. You know, would this be like an EOC? I mean, to be honest, if heaven forbid we had a shooter event, whether that's at the city, some city-owned building, whether that's Public Works, the fitness center, the city center, the library. Personally, I don't know what to do. I don't know where we would meet, or how we would account for employees and those types of things. So, you know, I hate to be the downer, but that's just fresh on my mind with that type of an event.
Right. If there's any PD guys on here that have probably, not probably, but definitely have more active shooter training, feel free to jump in. But as far as an EOC, the Emergency Operations Center, I don't know that you would set one up for an active shooter event, just because you hope that it's not a long event. When you set up an EOC, you're usually setting up something that you're looking at hours, maybe, days or even weeks. Like when we had our range fire, we had our EOC, a portion of our EOC set up, because that was like an 8 to 10 day event. Whereas most of these active shooter stuff that you see, as horrible as the situation is, it's usually not a very a long situation where you would be setting up EOC. The PD side, they're just gonna kind of take that over and do what they do to end that situation as quick as possible.
Okay.
Jason, I can tell you from a dispatch standpoint what maybe some of our preparedness is on that level, if you'd like.
Okay, yeah.
So from, like Keith said, that's a very active, evolving situation, right? So every one of them is going to be different. And EOC is something that is more of a long-term, going to take a while, like the fire. Whereas something like this is going to be over and done with very quickly. So from a dispatch standpoint, we train. We try to do at least a once a year. So any new dispatchers who come in who don't know what we expect or what we're going to do, and that training we typically try and do in tandem with the police department. Well, I guess more than tandem. We try and do it with the police and the fire. We try to do those all together. We just recently had one as Hillcrest Elementary is coming down. So we got together and we had everybody from the SWAT team. We landed 3 helicopters. We played out a real scenario. And as far as dispatch side of all of that and what we are doing, our number one goal as dispatch is to have eyes on the shooter and to get him taken out. Or if it's not a shooter, this person with the weapons, you know, because it could be knives like we've had in this city or whatever the situation. So we're going to be inundated with 911 calls. And to be quite frank, unless you have eyes on the shooter, we're going to hang up on you. Just because we've got to have somebody who can see that shooter so that we can get our resources to take that person out first. Because until that person's taken out, it's just going to continue.
Yeah.
So from a dispatch standpoint, that's our goal. And then to deal with all the other things.
Thanks, Lena. You know, and even on a side note, and I apologize, Heath, for cutting in, but
No, please do.
and just on the topic of continuity of operations, I mean, you know, our fitness center, our city center, our library, you know, do our employees as supervisors, do we have a plan? Do we know how to get people, patrons, residents out of our building safely? Do we know how we're going to account for employees, roll call, basically? I know we had those conversations a few years back, but I would invite all of you to revisit that and communicate in your next staff meetings on just kind of a game plan on how to address these types of things.
Yeah, and from a dispatch standpoint on that too, there's 3 things to think about. So obviously, if you can get yourself out and safely, we want you to get out safe. That's number 1, get out if you can get out. Number 2, if you can't get out, barricade. Barricade doors, barricade things, do whatever you have to do, turn out your lights, and then shelter in place, basically.
Well, and I think it would also apply, I mean, even if we had a legitimate fire in one of our buildings and we had to evacuate, you know, do we know where to meet? Do we know where to go? Do we know who to contact? As far as our staff is concerned, what do we do with TILs? How do we, you know, whatever, I think are all applicable with this continuity of operation. So sorry, Heath, back to you.
No, thanks for jumping in and thanks for your help on that answer there, Lena, on the PD side, dispatch side of things. Again,
Hey,
these,
Heath, sorry,
Nope.
if you don't mind.
oh, absolutely. Please jump in.
My question is there, where is our plan? Is that somewhere that's easily accessible to us so we can see what our plan is for certain things that you guys have put together?
As the evacuation plan, is that what you're asking about?
Yeah,
Let's see, I should be shared. I'll share the link with you,
okay,
just to each of the department plan evacuation plans. And then obviously make sure that these evacuation plans just stay within the city. Because the last thing we need is anybody that wants to come in here and do damage, knowing exactly how we're going to evacuate. But I'll send the link out to you after this, and that way you can pass it on and see what, so supervisors can at least see what buildings we have plans for, and what the plans are. So like I said, the library will need to update, and we don't have one currently for the public works or the new fitness center. But those are plans that I am willing to sit down and help create or go through or whatever. That would be great.
Well, Carrie's got an exterior door in her office conveniently, so I'm heading there.
Not a bad place to go.
Jason, you're not supposed to share our internal plan.
Oh, sorry.
All right. Thanks for those questions. And again, don't be sorry for jumping in. Like I said, it's weird for me to do this presentation over Zoom. So just these last couple, make sure we have 72-hour kits. There could be times where you can't leave. That you were hanging out at work, what, it could be maybe an EOC, or it could just be Carrie's back door to her office is blocked, so her and Jason can't get out and they're stuck in there at work.
Heath, do you have resources for that or for the purchase of something like that?
Yes. So most of the stuff that we share is bereadyutah.gov, I believe is the website. I'll send some of these links to Carrie to send out to this group, or to you, Jason, whoever wants to send them out. But yes, Be Ready Utah, they have resources back to the family plans, the family communication, reunification, the 72-hour kits. It's a great place. They're a part of the state division of emergency management, and that's their whole focus is on these 72-hour kits and plans and making sure families and employees are as well taken care of as possible.
Well, I don't think our snack bar here in Human Resources, as nice as it is, qualifies as a 72-hour kit. It helps for sure.
Right. Yeah, so we'll get those links out as supervisors are interested in those.
Hey Heath, this might be a dumb question, but do you have a budget to help us get these 72-hour kits, or does it come out of ours?
I do not have a budget for as far as that kind of stuff. So I don't know if there's anybody on finance. I can't see who's on the call, but maybe that's a line item we could have a discussion about at some other time. Okay, so jumping here. So the next bullet point I have here is report your department status to the incident commander or emergency operations center if it's up and running. And what you're kind of reporting there, just so people, our incident commander knows as he's setting up those operational priorities from the start, that life safety, who in the department's accounted for and who's missing. Just kind of any damages or operational issues that are going on within the department. That way the incident commander is able to take that information, and it's going to help him make those priorities and the objectives that they're trying to take care of. And then the last one here is report to the EOC if we're setting it up. If the incident's big enough that we're setting it up. And later in the slide, we've just got our EOC org chart, which seems to be always out of date as quickly as people are kind of seem to be moving in and out. But we'll look at that just so people are aware who's on the chart. Let's see here. All right, now just to go over this continuity of operations plan. This is one of the plans that for our emergency management, the grant that we received that the State Division of Emergency Management has us do. They view as probably the most important plan that we could have, just because it's department specific, kind of how we're going to keep things up and running. And so just looking at this slide here, the continuity of operations plan is set up to save lives, incident stabilization, property preservation. So you're going to see those on every plan that the LIPS, but maintain essential communications, restore our community lifelines, try to make it as nice on our residents as quickly as we can. It's kind of what this COOP plan does. Obviously any disaster, we could be knocked down for a while, but we're trying to get back up and running as quickly as we can. Protect the public's health, safety, and well-being, and then provide for business and industrial continuity. So as you can see, if you can see my mouse there, pre-disaster, this is where we're at currently, trying to get this planning done. And then you're going to have this initial response phase. To go back to the Jason's active shooter incident, what he was talking about, this incident response phase, we hope is really quick. You hope that's over and we can get into the recovery of the next steps after that, of making sure families get reunited with people in there that were part of the incident, but Luckily, we're not victims, that kind of thing. When we're looking at, let's say, a fire or an earthquake, this response plan could be, farther out into here. It could be a bigger response plan that takes longer before we can get into that recovery. But as you can see, our recovery, we've got short term, so we could be minutes all the way up to years, depending on how big of the issue was, the emergency that we're dealing with, and all the different aspects that we're trying to get back up and running. And so what this COOP plan does is tries to take this long-term recovery and get it as short as we can. If we've come up with plans and try, obviously we'll never hit everything. COVID being a good example. All these emergency managers, we've all got plans for different things here and there. Worldwide pandemic that shuts everything down is not one that was on most people's radar. So you'll never be able to plan for everything, but if you could plan for 75%, maybe 50% of issues that are going to arise, it's going to be a good way to slow down these, not slow down, excuse me, shorten these recovery times and these recovery periods, and have our essential functions back up and running, to try to ease the burden on the residents of what they're already going through with these disasters.
Well, and with that, Heath, too, we've all, maybe 30 years ago, the idea of a disaster, is just few and far between, but just watch the news for 10 minutes. I mean, things are happening everywhere. So, and we're not immune from disasters. So,
Right. Yeah. Thanks for that comment. Like I said, I've been at Orem for 5 years, and we've had COVID, we've had a fire, we had flooding due to a rainstorm. There's the Magna earthquake, which affected the one crack in our building, and then we had some issues at this pool. So we'll probably be in a drought for who knows how long. So like Jason said, we'll watch the news for a few minutes, or just think about, our town here of Orem and all the stuff that we've had to deal with in just the last 5 years. Disasters don't seem to be getting any smaller or any less frequent. It seems to be picking up in frequency and in size. All right, so let's jump in here. Now that we've taken care of family, we know the status of our employees. Now we're going to report to the EOC. Let's say it's up and running. The disaster is big enough to where we are going to have people come in and help. So the Emergency Operations Center, the biggest word is support for an EOC. So an EOC is not boots on the ground, making any tactical decisions. The EOC is the group that's located in a facility who is helping the incident commander with boots on the ground, with resources, with coordination, with communication. We're doing all of those different events to try to make the incident commander's life, as they're responding to a disaster, as easy as possible. Currently, the Orem City, our EOC is located in the public safety training room, which is just downstairs right as you come in the front door. If we were to have to set up, that's where we're going to be setting up. And again, an EOC it's just a building or a location. It could be anywhere, but it's that group of people that are coming together to support the incident. In the bottom of this slide, in an emergency situation, it takes every one of us. So that's one of my coworkers. His favorite quote is that. So you never know what it's going to be, but it's going to take every department. If we have a big enough issue, and every department, we're going to have volunteer groups coming in. We're going to be working with county and state resources. And so the EOC, sometimes people like to describe it kind of as a beehive. It's going to be busy in there. There's going to be a whole lot going on. And we're just trying to make that honey for the incident commander to make his or her life as easy as possible. That boots on the ground. I mean, that incident commander, depending on what's going on, it could be PD, it could be fire. If we could have public works, if we have, a cyber thing going on, that incident commander could be IT. So just don't think because you're not public safety, you may not ever be in that incident commander role that needs some EOC help. And then let me jump. When we get to a slide here in a little bit, I'll kind of explain a little more, but an EOC doesn't have to mean we have 100 people coming in. I think our org chart is probably close to that if it's fully up and running and functional. But an EOC could consist of 3 people. Again, all that's EOC is providing whatever support that incident commander needs. And if that can be done in 3 people, great. If that takes 20 people, great. If that takes a full EOC, then that's the route we're going to have to do. Let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to click here. Did my screen freeze? Jason or Carrie, do you know? I'm not able to advance this slide.
Yeah, I can't see what you're seeing.
Oh, there we go. All right, sorry. So again, what's going to be going on in that EOC is supporting the incident commander, and how the EOC is going to do that. So there's each of these bullet points. So we're going to have information. We're going to collect the information, and that's going to be from employees, from residents. That's going to be from volunteers. That could be from the media. We don't know how that information is going to come in, but we're going to get flooded with information. That's going to be, we're going to have that. We have some phone lines in the EOC. Dispatch is going to get hammered, and 311 will probably be getting hammered as well. And so kind of bringing that information in, we're going to evaluate the information. So see what information is coming in, can be validated. One of the biggest issues that you're going to see when we're doing EOC, and for the poor PIOs that are trying to validate all this information, is all the rumors, the false information that's going to come in, where people believe they heard something and that's not what they really heard. So we got to bring that information in, analyze it, validate it, make sure it's good. And then we're going to be sending that out to our employees and the people working on the ground and at the EOC. Situational awareness. So along with the information, we'll have a big board as all that information comes in, whether that's a map or whether that's a whiteboard or whether that's on the computers, if those are still up and running, some way to track all of the information coming in. And again, here in a couple slides, it's kind of laid out who's in what role. They match your current job as good as possible, but there are a few things in there that do change. So increase coordination, whether that's a big incident or that's multiple incidents, we're trying to make sure we're coordinating with all the different groups and departments and making sure everybody's on the same page with what's going on, why you're getting this, why you're not getting this resource. Just trying to eliminate any questions. Incident priority. So again, that's going to go back to our LIP acronym. We're also going to be relying on our incident commanders to come up with objectives to hit those priorities. And then our multi-agency coordination group is what it's called, just the MAC group, MAC. And that's our department directors and our city management office. And they're going to be making those decisions on some of the priorities. If we have multiple issues going on, we could run across a situation where we have life safety on both, let's say, the north end of town, the south end of town, and trying to come up with those priorities of where we're going to go first. Again, kind of mentioned resource management and our coordination, making sure people are getting what they need, when they need it. And if it's not available, trying to track that down and letting people know. We're letting the boots on the ground, the incident commander, know when they're going to be able to get what they're asking for. Common operating picture. I'm going to skip that one. I feel like it's the same as coordination. Making sure everybody's on the same page. And then our long-term operations, like back to that COOP plan. If we're in recovery for a long time, we could have gone through the incident, had the response, be done with the response, and then we're into recovery. Well, our recovery group, as they work on the recovery for this, is technically still, it could be that 5 to 10 people in the EOC, and they could be continually working for the next who knows how long, getting everything back up and running either to 100% or to the new normal, depending on what the incident is. And then communications and public warnings, as our PIOs, or as we collect that information and validate it, then we're going to be sending that to our PIOs to get out to our residents, have those communications, let them know what's going on, why it's going on, those kind of things, what the next steps are. The communications and public warnings, that's one of the bigger steps. We've kind of learned throughout some of these big incidents and after action reports in the EM world, that no matter what's going on, you want to give periodic updates, whether that's nothing, even if that is a tweet or a Facebook post or whatever it is that says nothing has changed, next update at this time. Yeah, even if that's what you're sending out, public is, they're paying attention to us. They're trying to keep us up and going. It's hopefully going to eliminate some of the phone calls that are coming in. And then we're going to be obviously providing legal and financial support. Disasters aren't cheap. One of the reasons that we do all of this, the EOC, all of our trainings, the FEMA courses that the EOC group, according to some people, have had to suffer through, and according to some people just have to take, which I don't know what side I'm on some of these FEMA courses, but we do get financial support from the federal government as we do these courses and we hit their check boxes. So not only do we become better prepared and more able to respond to these disasters, we also, that's operational and financially. And then obviously with any incident or disaster, we're going to have that coordination with the elected officials, kind of putting it all together, giving them, hey, here's what's going on, here's what incident commander is working on, here's what the EOC is suggesting, here's what we're trying to track down. With that information flow, this is kind of, obviously there's a lot of words and a lot of arrows. Don't expect everybody to read everything, but as you can see, there's going to be a whole lot of moving parts. Here's kind of those groups that I mentioned. They're all going to be receiving the information coming in. And then once it kind of gets into that EOC, how it's going to flow through there and how we're going to be able to make sure everybody's on the same page, is on that, has a situational awareness, and on that same common operating picture. So here's our EOC chart for the city of Orem. This has been developed sitting down, as you see up here in this top left corner, with the multi-agency coordination, that MAC group. So sitting down with this group, and obviously there's some names in there that have changed even in just the MAC group. But having those conversations of, here's the roles, Here's what each of these different boxes, what they're gonna do during an EOC operation when we're set up, and I've tried to match those roles with what they do at work as well as possible. And then have that checked off with our MAC group. So obviously you can see this is April, so what, 2 months ago. And I'll bet there's 5 or 10 names on here that I need to go through and make sure are updated and ready to go. But this is the group, if we do set up our EOC, whether it's a portion or all of this group that are going to be responding to a big incident that we may have, or we may have going on. So just supervisors, as you kind of glance through this here, just the next, let's say, I don't know, 20 or 30 seconds. Any names that you may see on here, whether you think they would be a better slot than someone on here, or someone's left and there's been a fill-in, just run that through the department director, kind of let them know, here's why I think this, or obviously if they've left and there's a replacement, you can just let me know. But as we're making changes and stuff, just run those through that MAC group up here, and then we can get those changes made. So I'll just leave this up for just a few more seconds as people kind of glance at it. And maybe it's good spot to pause here and just ask if there's any questions, if anybody has any comments, concerns.
Keith, does the EOC and the MAC group, are they usually in the same space, or are they in separate spaces?
So those two groups would be in separate spaces. What we have planned is the MAC group would be, I want to say when we discussed it, would be over in the, what do we say? The conference room across from the council chambers. We had talked about doing this MAC group down at the rec center. But after having my training with the IT division, it was decided that that's probably not a great idea, just based on service and what's going on in there. So probably something when I sit back down with the MAC group to go back over, but they are in 2 different locations. Obviously with the ability to communicate back and forth as needed. All right, go ahead and advance, and if there's no other questions. So that's kind of I've got kind of 2 portions to this presentation. The first half was the response, how we're going to respond, who's going to kind of be involved in that. And this next portion kind of goes through the FEMA portion, why we do it. Obviously it's for financial support, but this kind of goes through and walks through some of the requirements that they make jurisdictions do, whether that's on a city level, a county level, or a state level. Everybody has to have things that they check off, boxes that get done, and trainings that everybody goes through. So again, this is put this portion in here. So I know the people on the org chart for our EOC, there's 4 and 5 classes, FEMA classes that they have to take. So this is kind of good for me to show people, hey, this is why we do this, so that they don't think I'm just torturing them for a few hours and they don't like the emergency management role. I got to prove it's not my fault that you have to take those classes. So when we have an EOC response,
why it's important that they do these classes, because we don't get reimbursed from the government, right? If we don't.
Yeah, so I think that's here next slide or 2,
Okay,
but I'll
sorry.
go ahead and cover. No, it's fine. I'll go ahead and cover that right now. So we do all of these classes and all of these trainings as an EOC. So if we have a disaster, say it costs $1 million, that's going to be seems like a smaller disaster these days, but it costs $1 million. If we have done all of these trainings and things that we're that FEMA has asked us to do, then FEMA covers 75% of those disasters, and Orem would be on the hook for 25%. If it's a federally declared by the governor disaster, like that's the caveat here. So it has to be a big enough that it's a governor declared disaster in Utah. If we don't do all of these, and we're not, it's called the NIMS compliant. So National Incident Management System is kind of where all the regulations and stuff come from FEMA. If we haven't done what they asked us to do, then Orem is on the hook for 100%. So they won't come in and help us out if we're not doing the training that they're asking us to do. Terry, does that answer? Is that what you're looking for?
Yes, thank you.
Yep. So as we respond on an EOC, so the incident commander is obviously going to be the boots on the ground. He or she won't be in the EOC, but these positions right here, operations, planning, logistics, and finance, and then our PIO, they're going to respond to just about every incident. Back to that first slide, what is an incident? Whether it's, the big earthquake or the traffic stop, we could have one individual that covers all 5 of these, or even 6 of these spots. They could be doing the incident commander and the EOC all at once. That's all the, on a traffic stop, it could be 1 or 2 people, and that's all that they need to take care of that incident that they're dealing with. If we have a broken pipe that Public Works is out fixing, it could be there 3 or 4 people on their crew, and that's all that they need. And they're able to cover all of these, but all of these different steps, they're all being done on every incident, no matter the size. People may just not know that these terms are what FEMA is looking for as they're taking care of those. I know this stuff, that's Public Works and Public Safety, they use this terminology quite often. But a lot of the other departments, I'm going to guess, don't use this, even though they're doing it all the time. So the ops section, they're doing all of our tactical stuff. They're kind of going to be in charge of whatever the incident commander needs to take care of the scenario. They're going to be doing those tactical, helping with the incident commander's tactical planning. Obviously, we're doing the plans not only for what's going on now, but as we look into the future of what we can take care of. Logistics, they get to track down everything. So they're finding whether that's food, water, resources, places to sleep, whatever it may be. That's what the logistics get to do. And then finance, they get to do obviously all the money stuff. Whether that's contracts, whether that's just one-time purchases, whatever it may be. That's what finance gets to do. And then our PIO, obviously they're the ones that they get to help out and talk to the public and help with that information verification. And then our department directors, city management, that multi-agency coordination group. They're over, obviously it's their incident. The department directors just because they're responsible for the incident kind of obviously doesn't mean they're going to be, this bottom bullet point, not at the scene. So they're responsible for the incident, but they're delegating the response to whoever the incident commander is. And then they're helping with overseeing and providing any policy guidance, whatever may arise during that incident that might not be aware of. Again, sorry, this one's not quite as fun, this side of the thing, or side of the presentation. And then on that EOC org chart, each one of those boxes has an assigned title. And then I've got a checklist that kind of goes through what each of those people do. Obviously, we're not setting up the EOC every day. Hopefully not even every year. So we may not memorize or always remember exactly what we're supposed to do as we come to the EOC. So there are checklists to kind of go through, different forms, help you kind of pick that process back up. Also, I've been working with each department, the members on the org chart, and providing them training with these checklists and going through, it's been half an hour to an hour. Here's what your department or your group would do. Here's the checklist. Is there any questions? Just kind of going through a mini response with what they would be doing. I've probably hit, I don't know, I'd say 75% of departments. So if I have not come to your department yet, we're working on it. And then once each department's kind of have that opportunity to have that individualized training, then we'll all come together and do some sort of EOC training where we're able to kind of respond and just see how the flow, how everything's going to work. So if I haven't hit your department, feel free to send me an email. I've got the list, but we can set up a time, kind of get ready to go, and go through those. Again, not all stuff you have to memorize, just these are just job helps as we respond to the EOC. And then on this slide, this just kind of walks through how a disaster is going to work. So every disaster, this bottom, we'll go this local government box. So if we have a disaster in Orem, it's going to both start in Orem and it's going to end in Orem. We may need state and federal help, but we have to hit certain disaster and financial thresholds to get to these different steps of government, state and federal. So Orem right here, we're going to be working with individuals, our non-governmental organizations. So all of our different volunteer groups that are, that's going to be Red Cross and those kinds of organizations. And then our private sector. And we're going to hope to be able to take care of all of our disasters with these 4 boxes, the 3 smaller ones and our local government. If we can't, then that's when we start asking. There should be a county group in here. I don't know why FEMA doesn't put it in, but we'll go from local to the county, Utah County. And then we're going to step up and ask state and federal. And again, if we have just a minor disaster, we can't just go straight to the federal government and say, hey, we don't want our Orem people to respond to this. Can you just send some help? Well, they're going to come back with no, not until it's reached those certain thresholds and those certain numbers. And this is kind of what I had mentioned, why we do all of this for this national incident management system. Going back to Carrie's question, we do all of this, to be better prepared to respond, to help the residents throughout Orem, but also that financial factor plays a big role. Nobody wants to be on the hook for an entire disaster because we didn't do some trainings, we didn't do some exercises to make sure that we had done what FEMA has asked us to do on some of this stuff. So, but yeah, this just goes over what NIMS is, who's eligible, which is Orem City, and then, like I said, how and why. Again, this is like I don't know, I want to say 300-page book that answers those 4 questions. If you need to be put to sleep, go ahead and read it. If not, let me do that, and we'll just go through the trainings that need to be done. So the courses that our EOC folks have to take are their ICS, Incident Command System courses. They can all just be found on FEMA's website. Just a simple Google search of ICS 100 will pull up the classes. But we do 100, which is an introduction to the Incident Command System, 700, which is an intro into this National Incident Management System. 800 is the National Response Framework, which kind of incorporates ICS and NIMS. And then 2200, which is a basic EOC course, which that one's new. And so, like I said, the groups on the EO, or the people on the EOC chart have to take those. Each one is probably about an hour. They don't take too long, and then there is just a little quiz at the end or a test at the end just to get the certificate. Honestly, if you can find the time throughout the year, an hour here, an hour there to take those 4 classes as supervisors, that would be great. If not, I also understand that. So I don't know. Hey, Jason, are you still on here?
Yes.
I know you went through those classes. And a couple of them you liked more than the other ones. I don't know if you, just a quick, is it about an hour? Is that accurate? Is that about what it took you?
No, it wasn't that long.
Wasn't even that long. Okay.
No, I would say that would be worst case scenario. I mean, if you've got, 35 to 45 minutes, I think if you just buckle down, you could get through it fairly easily. So
Okay.
Not too complicated.
Okay, thank you. Again, I obviously just a suggestion, not a requirement or anything, unless you're unless your name is on the EOC org chart, then it is a requirement to line up with this NIMS to make sure that have done everything in line with what they want. And then incident command system. So again, this is just a standardized, everybody uses the same system, everybody uses the same language. That way, say this takes place up in Salt Lake and they've asked for a little bit of help. We're able to send people up there and just able to fit right in. This is also flexible. So as we've talked about, it could be one person all the way up to 1,000 people, and it's all going to be the same type of setup, same type of structure. Let's see, kind of covered that. So the worst thing that you can have happen, ICS kind of came about because of some fires that took place in California back in 1970. They had all the resources, had all the people, everything that they needed, but the management and the organization failed. So that failed, and there was a lot of devastation to people. There was loss of life, there was loss of property, that all could have been taken care of, or not, I shouldn't say all, maybe most of it could have been taken care of had they had some better management in place. So that's when FEMA decided we needed to come up with a system. Here's the system we're going to use. And so this ICS system is why our org chart looks like it does, because we're trying to line up with this system and be in line with everybody else, including FEMA. So just a couple things. This is always a fun conversation to have with department directors and supervisors. Sometimes, like I said, I tried to line positions up as well as I could with day-to-day work titles and work duties, but that's not always something that can happen. So sometimes there could be different titles and organizational structures as you come out of your day-to-day role into an incident role when you're in the EOC, or as a supervisor on this call, you could be even out as the incident commander. So just know that those ranks may change. That may or may not happen at times, and just know that that's not anything personal. That's an ICS thing. And we'll all just work together to kind of take care of that. So just throw that slide in there because we don't want that issue to take place. And then this last slide here. So this is the last slide of this presentation. It's just kind of how it all fits together. So we have our incident command, our on-scene boots on the ground, and they're doing all of our tactical objectives. They're out there, whether that's fixing the pipe, whether that's doing the active shooter response, whether that's responding to the fire, whatever that may be, that's our incident command. Emergency operations center, we're that coordination group. which is going to be a lot of the supervisors on here, are going to be in this coordination group, back and forth with our incident command, making sure that we're hitting these different options, these communications, they're getting what the resources they need. We're all on the same page, et cetera, that we've covered for the last little half an hour or so. And then we've got our multi-agency coordination, our MAC group, which is our city management, our officials, our department directors, who are answering those big overarching questions, more so on the 20,000 foot level, looking forward to what may or may not come and working on those priorities and policies. So again, tactical over here in incident command, and coordination here on emergency operations center. So this is kind of a fun quote. I forgot, I added this last second. Just give everybody a quick second to read that. So as you guys are reading that, as an emergency manager, there's so many different things that we're trying to prepare for. On as this last line, when you get there, that all hazards. We never know what's going to take place. I can't plan for everything. I could have all the time in the world and still not plan for everything, because I don't know the ins and outs of your departments, what you guys are doing, what always needs to be up and running, all of those different kinds of integral details. So as we work on the COOP plan together, and as we work on different, evacuation plans and preparedness and trainings, I essentially just want to say thanks for the time. Thanks for the opportunity. I know it's not stuff that a lot of people, we're all busy and trying to fit, half an hour here and there to kind of cover this stuff and make sure the plans that I'm creating are actually going to be helpful throughout each department. Can't plan for it all and couldn't do it without everybody, that's on this call and that works for Orem City. So I just want to say thanks. If there's any questions, feel free to ask, whether that's on this call, through email, text, whatever it may be. Go ahead and reach out at any time. Just the last couple slides here. So as supervisors, just a few things to remember to think about. Have your groups do those family preparedness plans, our communication plans, make sure we know where everybody's at, everybody's safe. Look over that org chart, and then let's sit down and do the COOP plan and make sure we're all on the same page. And I didn't cover Everbridge much. I've done some trainings on Everbridge, so most people are aware of that, but it is as you set up these communication plans, Everbridge is something that's available throughout the city. It's a notification system. You can go in and put in phone numbers, emails, whatever you select, and then just log in there and send out one message that hits all of hits all the employees within your department. It can be used both sunny day, like every day, day to day, or in emergency situations. So as you're setting up these communication plans, if you have questions about Everbridge, come down and sit down and go through the capabilities there as well. So that's all I've got. Again, thanks for the time, Carrie and Jason, for letting me do this presentation. Does anybody have any questions now towards the end, whether chat or feel free just to unmute and jump on?
I just wanted to clarify that if you're on the EOC list, you need to be taking those trainings. That's a requirement, right? If you're not on the list, you recommend that you take them anyway. But if you're on the EOC chart, you should take those NIMS trainings. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep. So FEMA does require that. The ICS 100, 700, 800, and 2200 for all the people on our Orem City EOC org chart, to make sure we're able to get the financial reimbursement.
Okay, thank you. If there's no more questions, thank you, Heath. Thank you, Lena. You know, in hindsight, looking back over the COVID shutdown period of time and my involvement with the EOC, you know, I was able to compare Orem City's efforts and the effectiveness of well-prepared group of people in their efforts with the EOC, and how that positively affected Orem City versus other groups that I'm affiliated with that weren't prepared, that didn't have things organized, and as a result were very reactive to their situation rather than proactively moving forward. So very effective program process. Again, like Heath said, and Lena and Carrie, we're all here as a resource. So again, I'd like to extend that invitation to all supervisors to, in your upcoming staff meetings, please make an effort to address these things, answer questions, and again, please come to us if we can be of any assistance. Carrie, do you have anything else to add?
No, I just appreciate everybody's participation today. These are heavy topics that we've discussed today, and I know it's a lot for everybody to think about. We appreciate you just listening, and I really appreciate Lena and Heath and for their preparation and time that they put in to put these presentations together. I think they're really important for us to talk about. So appreciate everybody's participation, and we hope you guys have a great day, and please come in person for our Build a Better Orem next month. Thanks, everybody.
Yep, have a good one. Thank you.